What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. And as you can see, I have a fun, kind of background today. I am recording from work, the Vault Kitchen and Market in Savannah, Georgia. So if any of you are ever down here and want to meet your host, who does the most, Ethan Smith, here at the Locked On Pirates podcast, that's where you can find me. It's my other job. I am not just a Pirates podcast host. I am also a server, but guess what? You guys might have knew that already. But we are here today on December 15th. Hope everybody is having a phenomenal Wednesday as we are, again, inching closer to the Christmas season. Thank you all for, of course, making this your first listen of the day every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You know, you can listen wherever you can find your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, YouTube, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you can find it. You're going to see Locked On Pirates. You're going to see this wonderful yellow, I can't point today, yellow logo right there for you. And on today's episode, as I tweeted yesterday, we are starting player profiles today. We're going to be working around the positions. So we're going to start with catcher Roberto Perez, first baseman Yoshi Tsutsugo, and second baseman Michael Chavis. Of course, tomorrow's episode will be more heavy on the middle infielders. And then Friday, when we have Adam Bittner on, if we get him on this week, we will be talking about Ke'Bryan Hayes, Ben Gamble, and the potential of some other guys. And then, of course, following all of this, we're going to get into some prospect spotlighting some guys that could come up in 2022, spotlighting some other guys that are still going to be needing to take major steps forward over the next year or so to get up on the major league roster. But guys, as you always know, when the music plays, we get right into it. So let's have a good episode.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host who does the most, Ethan Smith. Hope you all, again, are having a phenomenal Wednesday. And as we said today, we are going to be getting into player profiles heading into 2022. And before we get to 2022, this is what we will be doing for pretty much the rest of the month. You guys are going to be getting episodes today, tomorrow, Thursday, and then after this week, we will be going to 3 episodes a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Mondays and Fridays, of course, with Adam Bittner, and Wednesdays, the days that I want to bring you guys on the podcast, and you could even be doing some player profiles with me. We can talk about whatever we want. New Year's resolutions will also be coming pretty soon as well. We will be getting into those closer to the new year, which should be in 2 weeks, which is very interesting. But on today's episode, we're going to get into a couple players that are on the right side of the field and one behind the backstop. And we're going to go ahead and start with Roberto Perez. Roberto Perez, of course, I feel like is going to end up being a victim of a lot of hatred when he plays not so well, and very good when he does play good, just mainly because he is the replacement for Jacob Stallings, who was traded to the Miami Marlins. Of course, Locked On Marlins, by the way, has a new host, Peter Pratt, so go check him out. He's going to have former host Aram Layton on tomorrow, so make sure you go check that out over at Locked On Marlins if you have the time. But Roberto Perez, I do think that he has a lot on his shoulders already. He is currently the only catcher on the 26-man roster as of right now. Of course, roster moves can't really be made because of the CBA negotiations and all that good stuff, so you're not going to see any of that at the current moment. But the thing is with Roberto Perez that you really have to look forward to here is he's kind of the same kind of player as Jacob Stallings. He's very defensive-minded. He's a former Gold Glove winner. He doesn't really hit the ball too great, but one of the things that I am expecting him to do in 2022 and would love to see him do and bring to this ball club is bring some power to the lineup. The Pirates desperately need it. They got rid of Colin Moran this offseason, which was kind of a shock in a way for some people, as Yoshi Tsutsugo, who we'll talk about in the next segment, is the only first baseman currently on the 26-man roster. So catcher and first base, kind of a little thin right now. But with Roberto Perez, one of the things I think people are going to need to realize is he's going to be a lot like Jacob Stallings. He's going to have those rough outings offensively, but hopefully we get that Gold Glove defense that we've seen from him in the past, and he brings it to Pittsburgh. And honestly, I'll be honest here, I don't think that it's going to really mess with anything in terms of the idea of getting defense from your catcher spot. Now, is he going to have the same defensive output as Jacob Stallings, where he's literally leading the entire MLB in defensive run saved? I'm not saying all that, but I am saying I think he has a very good potential of creating and keeping the culture of good defense that the Pirates showed in 2021, where they were tied for first for the best fielding percentage in all of baseball alongside the Houston Astros. And I think Roberto Perez has a real shot to keep that going. I don't think, again, Jacob Stallings, it was a sentimental thing. We've seen him for so long. Seeing him get traded was very annoying. I get it. It sucked, right? But realistically now, if you want to look at that trade under a microscope, Roberto Perez is very similar to Jacob Stallings. Is he as good as him? No, but he's very similar. So you basically traded Jacob Stallings for a catcher of similar stature in terms of play style and the possibility that you may get some power from him in the lineup on top of getting Zach Thompson and the other guys that you got in that trade. So we'll see what we get from Roberto Perez. I'm really, again, just to hit the key points, I'm really looking for him to bring some power to the lineup, hit around the 230, 235, maybe even 240 range if he can get up there. I even think 225 would be okay for the most part. Catchers are not the best hitters in the world around baseball anyway, so just give us that. Maybe 15 or 20 home runs. That would be nice to see. I would be okay with anything in double digits from him. And then just do what he used to do behind the backstop. Just be a very good defensive catcher, make the plays that you need to make, and make things work. And I think Roberto Perez can do that. I really do. I wouldn't be saying it to you all if I didn't think he could. And I'm very excited to see what he can do behind the backstop while Henry Davis and these other young players are waiting in the wings. So that is on Roberto Perez. And before we get into Yoshi Tsutsugo, I want to let you guys know about the best protein bars on the planet, and that is Built Bar. Built Bar, of course, is a protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich and decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, as well as high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel you need during the holiday season to finish your Christmas shopping. Built Bar can give you that extra something to keep you going. So just throw one in your jacket or purse while you're on the go. You never know when you're going to need it. Want to cozy up with something warm? Here's a holiday secret. Dip your Built Bar in a piping hot cup of cocoa. Let it melt a little and give your beverage a bit of the flavor that you like. Make sure you pick the flavor that you like the most. Plus, you'll have a nice melty Built Bar to go with it. Be sure to have a couple napkins on hand. Like some of those marshmallowy treats around the holidays? You need to get your hands on Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in chocolate. They taste amazing. You won't believe that they're even filled with protein. Go to BuiltBar.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED15 if you're on YouTube. You can see the bottom of the screen, and you will receive 15% off of your next order, meaning you could already be an existing customer of Built Bar and still take part in the best protein bars on the market. And now, I want to let you guys know about Fantrax. Fantrax, of course, is the most customizable MLB fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Create or join a fantasy baseball commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate your draft this season. It's also the top dynasty fantasy baseball platform in the industry. Go deep with the ultimate keeper and dynasty leagues, create a simple redraft league, or even a customizable best ball league with up to 2,000 teams. Coming from another service, Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. Among the most trusted names in fantasy sports since 2008, Fantrax invites you to sign up today for free. If you do, you'll be entered to win an official MLB signed Fernando Tatis Jr. baseball. Simply go to fantrax.com/lockedon and use the promo code TATIS, T-A-T-I-S, when you sign up to be eligible to win. If there is anything lacking in your current fantasy league manager, Fantrax likely has it. Fantasy sports never sleeps, and neither does Fantrax, with season running 365 days a year. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Play ball. All right, Fantrax. Check it out. It's really fun. Get ready for the 2022 MLB fantasy baseball season with it. But while we're here, maybe a guy you might want to pick up near the late rounds if you're in a super deep league is Yoshi Tsutsugo. We have talked about Yoshi Tsutsugo on this podcast a lot this offseason. There were questions on if he was going to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Pirates, which he did on a one-year deal. And with that one-year deal that he did sign, of course, Colin Moran had to be DFA'd, so Colin Moran is no longer here. So Yoshi Tsutsugo now mans first base by himself. Now, Yoshi Tsutsugo, a big part of him re-signing, of course, was because Pittsburgh was kind of a leap trampoline, kind of, in a way, if you want to say it that way, to him getting back to the way he was playing in Japan. He played for the Dodgers and the Rays. He didn't have the greatest outputs there in terms of statistics, but when he came to Pittsburgh, he did pretty well. He was in the 250s for the most part, second most home runs on the team, even though he didn't play the entire year with the team. So that's one of the things that I'm definitely looking forward to with Yoshi Tsutsugo in 2022 is, can he bring that same output that he brought with the Pirates for about half a year and bring it into a full season? Now, who knows if we're going to have 162 games or not? Who knows if we're going to have a full season or not? Who knows when all that's going to happen? I am speaking in terms of if the CBA does come to an agreement on a 162-game season. That is how I will be doing these player profiles. One of the things, I would love to see Tsutsugo double his home run total from 2021, which I believe was 10. So I want to see him get into the 20s. I would like to see that. I want to see his batting average in the 230, 240 range. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not asking for a lot from these guys, especially Roberto Perez and Yoshi Tsutsugo. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just asking to add power to the lineup, play well defensively, and get your hits where you get them. Because we all know Yoshi Tsutsugo had his off days, but when he was on, he was on. He knows how to pull the ball. He's a very strong hitter. He's shown that in Japan. He showed it a little bit in Tampa and LA. He really showed it in Pittsburgh, and he just likes being here. So that's really, going into this year, I think that's really going to help him as he's playing somewhere where he's really felt welcomed. He feels like, I belong here, right? Now, the fact that it was only a one-year deal, of course, still bothers me a little bit because you got him on a pretty cheap deal, right? You kind of did. But let's say Yoshi Tsutsugo going into this year has a phenomenal year. 250, 260 by the All-Star break, 15, 20 home runs, just ripping the cover off the ball all year, right? The chances of them re-signing him again instantly drop. And why do I say that is because he's going to want more money. And they have money that they need to put elsewhere into Brian Reynolds, Brian Hayes. And is Yoshi Tsutsugo really the idea of the future first baseman of the Pittsburgh Pirates? I leave that up to you. Personally, for me, I am leaving it up to you, but this will be my opinion on that. I don't think he's the future first baseman of the Pittsburgh Pirates, but I do believe he could be an integral part of this team for the next couple of years. Not saying that he has to be the starting first baseman. I don't say that doesn't have to happen at all. If Mason Martin comes in and he rips the cover off the ball as well, and you decide to opt to start Mason Martin, you're not going to hear any complaints from me. Not going to hear one. If somebody else, like say they go in free agency and go get someone else, you're not going to hear any complaints from me on that at all. But I mean, Yoshi Tsutsugo, again, and while I take a sip of my water, he's a very good player. He's a good player. You saw what he could do in Japan. It hasn't really translated to the major league level. He is up there in age a little bit, but he's a first baseman. First baseman can play for a while. I would have liked to see a longer deal here for Tsutsugo. I just would have. I think it would have been phenomenal to get him on 2 years at least, at the minimum. But I'm glad that he's back, because if he wasn't back, this segment would be about Colin Moran, who is also no longer on the team anymore, which is fine, because I think Tsutsugo can really do well in the spot. And there are guys in the middle infield mix, and we're going to talk about one in the final segment today, and Michael Chavis, that can also play first base. I think Rodolfo Castro can stick himself over there. Michael Chavis can stick himself over there. You could see even a guy like Cole Tucker even be stuck over there as well. Or right field. You never know. You might have a guy come up like that. I do think that if there is an opportunity, the Pirates do need to add another catcher and another first baseman. I think that is two of their biggest things alongside pitching. Player profiles for pitching, by the way, before we continue, are all going to be like kind of meshed together a little bit with the rotation in the bullpen. I'm probably going to do like one starter, one bullpen, one starter, one bullpen, one starter, like kind of just bounce around. But anyways, what we're looking for from Yoshi Tsutsugo in 2022. Tear the cover off the ball when you're hitting. Play decent defensively. We're not asking you to be a Gold Glover. We're asking Yoshi to be a solid defensive first baseman. And just hit the ball well and play well. Enjoy the time that you have in Pittsburgh because it might not last after 2022. So that might suck for a lot of fans of this podcast, fans of the Pirates in general, but I really don't see Yoshi Tsutsugo being here past 2022, and with the idea that you don't really have a first baseman behind him right now outside of Mason Martin, how do you trade him? Maybe you move Michael Chavis over to first base and let that ride, but I don't really know how you would trade him either because, like I mentioned earlier, what if he has that really good first half of the year? You can't really trade him because then it's going to get really difficult because you're going to have to find a first baseman. Now, a reunion with Colin Moran, potentially possible, but I do think they had their focus on Yoshi the entire offseason. Ben Cherington definitely said it. He said, I want Yoshi back. He has him back. We just have to see what they're going to do with the rest of the depth behind this position. And same thing with catcher. Catcher right now, Michael Perez is there, but he's in AAA. He's not on the 26-man roster. You have Carter Binge. You have guys like that, but I don't think those guys are ready. So catcher and first base right now is Yoshi Tsutsugo and Roberto Perez. So these guys are going to have a lot on their shoulders heading into 2022 for good reason. I mean, you look at who they have behind them, they're not really competing with anybody, which is kind of concerning because I would have liked them to have to be competitive. That middle infield, which we're going to talk about tomorrow and probably even extend into Friday, depending on how long that talk goes, that middle infield is going to be nuts. There's going to be a lot of competition going on there with the guys that are going to be available on the top of the fact you have 8-9 middle infielders on the 20-man roster or 26-man roster right now. It's going to be nuts. But for Yoshi Tsutsugo and Roberto Perez, nothing to really worry about on that front because they don't really have anybody behind them just yet that is going to test them. And by the time they would, I think both of them are going to be gone. So, Yoshi, cheers to you for getting the extension, and hopefully we have a fun 2022 with you. And before we get into our final segment today, I want to let you guys know that today's episode is also, of course, brought to you by the wonderful people in sports betting over at BetOnline.ag. BetOnline has you covered for all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all of the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit, which means you can put $100 into betonline.ag and they will match $50 of it and give you $50 of free money, so $150. Just use their promo code LOCKEDON in all caps to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. And before we get into the final segment again today, guys, I want to let you know that thank you so much for making me your first listen of the day every single day. It's an honor that you choose to listen to this podcast every single day as you do. You guys have been killing it on the subscriber button on YouTube. I want to get to 100 before the start of the new year. You've also been killing the follow button on Twitter as well. Make sure you follow at Locked On Pirates and follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan. I'm also going to start doing shout-outs for new followers on the new episodes. So if you follow, you'll get a shout-out here at the Locked On Pirates podcast. But thank you for making me your hashtag first listen of the day every single day. And here in the final segment, we're going to talk about second baseman / whatever the position you want to call him is, Michael Chavis. Michael Chavis, of course, really good player, I thought, in Boston, but his time was kind of up at a certain point. He was, of course, acquired from Boston via trade in 2021. Michael Chavis, I like him a lot. I think he got in tune with Pittsburgh very quickly with the whole Boston Red Sox bag thing, and then he said Pirates ARG and Pittsburgh Clothing Company made it into a shirt, and he was all for it and everything. Chief Chavis, really like him. Old Locked On Red Sox host Gabrielle Starr said we were getting a phenomenal person, phenomenal baseball player, and I hope he proves it. As I mentioned about Yoshi Tsutsugo, Michael Chavis, looking into him in 2022, I definitely think he will win a spot on the 26-man roster after spending some of 2021 in AAA, just kind of getting in tune with the organization and everything. I think he's one of those guys that is definitely going to be there just because he can play play behind Tsutsugo at first base if need be. He can also play second base as well. So maybe it's shortstop too. I think that part is a little more shaky. But with Chavis, you really just have to marvel at the idea that he was basically picked up for nothing. I mean, they picked like the reliever we sent, good reliever and everything. But realistically, when you're sending a reliever and you're that bad of a team and you're getting a position player like a Michael Chavis, who as of right now is only, I believe, 26, 25, I think he's going to do fine. And I mean, he's a career 295 hitter. You can't be wrong with that. His projections right now, as far as Baseball Reference goes, have him hitting 244, 11 home runs, 38 RBIs. I would take that all day from Michael Chavis. I think those are good numbers to look forward to. I'd like him to bat above 250, but I think the 240 to 245 range is a good range. The 11 home runs, I think that's a good range as well, 10 to 15 home runs. I think we could really have that as an outlook for his season this upcoming year. And on top of that, I mean, he's not terrible defensively either. He's not like anybody to write home about defensively, but he's not terrible as well. And again, I think you're going to get to see him play second base a lot this year. I think you're going to see him play some first base. I think shortstop, maybe, but I do think Kevin Newman and eventually O'Neal Cruz are going to mainly man that spot up a lot, which is where Chavis will get kind of stuck in that big mold of those middle infielders, because he'll really end up just being the guy that might fill in for Yoshi Tsutsugo every couple days at first base, or he could be a really good pinch hitter. I'm all for it. I love good pinch hitters. We saw Wilmer Defoe this year at the beginning of the year. He was one of the best pinch hitters in baseball. It's always fun to have a guy you could trust on your bench that can really hit the baseball, and I think Michael Chavis could be that heading into 2022. But as far as what we're looking for from Michael Chavis in 2022, play good baseball, hitting the 240 to 260, maybe even 250 range, double-digit home runs, get some good RBIs, keep that OPS up, and get back to the way he was when he first got in Boston. He was a very good player when he first got there, but I think a lot like Andrew Benintendi, he just kind of his time ran out in Boston, and the Red Sox also were just okay with moving him. So that's just where that went, and that's how that ended up going. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith. I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your Wednesday. Make sure you go check out Locked On Bets with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. They've been on a roll as of late with football, basketball, college basketball, all that good stuff. So make sure you go check those wonderful guys out. And make sure you follow this podcast on Twitter at Locked On Pirates. Follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan. And until tomorrow with more player profiles, I am your host, Ethan Smith, and I'll see you on the flip side.